And welcome back to the Constitution Line by Line. I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And I'm Don Frazier, and we are grinding our way through the executive branch of the Constitution.
I don't know if we're grinding right now. We're in an exciting part.
We are. This is interesting stuff.
The presidency, the good old presidency.
Yeah, grinding through Article 1. That was grinding.
Parts of it were.
So this is Article 2.
Article 2.
Section 2.
Section 2.
Clause 1C.
Correct. Okay. And we're talking about the powers of the presidency. He shall, let me start it correctly. And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Wow.
And
so
somebody's impeached, he can't
do anything
say
about
you're
it.
back in office.
Yeah, you can't do it. So impeachment is something that occurs through the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Political process. We've covered that.
Political process, kicked out of a job, that sort of thing. So other than that, the president has his power of pardons and reprieves. And President Trump just coincidentally used it yesterday on a couple of people.
Really?
Yes. A guy who was a swindler, but he also wrote a book that was very, very favorable last year towards the president. Also, a conservative political activist out in California who had been involved in a political scandal, served his time in prison, got out, and again was working on issues of justice and dealing with people who had been imprisoned wrongfully convicted. So the president pardoned at least those two yesterday.
Wow.
So this power the president has, he can reduce your sentence. He can eliminate your sentence. He can totally pardon you. Pardoning you basically means the crime itself disappears.
Wow.
It's a pretty complete
There's a lot of that
power.
going on with the last administration, too, and some fairly controversial occurrences.
The last administration, President Obama, actually, yes, there were.
I mean, wasn't the Chelsea Manning thing, didn't that happen?
Yeah, he did some controversial ones regarding Chelsea Manning. But in terms of the sheer number, he was a disappointment to a lot of people.
Really?
And there were greater numbers that have been pardoned by previous presidents. You think of Bill Clinton, for example.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
And,
you know, a lot shadier friends.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't say such things.
And President Trump is pardoning some interesting people. I mean, among the people that he pardoned is Jack Johnson, the first African-American to win a boxing champion.
Yeah.
And he was convicted of taking a woman across state lines for immoral purposes.
Yeah.
She was his girlfriend, but she was white, he was black.
Race component, absolutely.
Race component, he gave him a pardon. Presidents can do this power, use this power any way they want to.
Andrew Johnson pardoned a lot of former Confederates. A lot.
The president from Tennessee.
Yeah. So he's accidentally the president after Lincoln is shot, and one of the things he does is trying to build upon Lincoln's idea of a quick reconciliation.
Right.
Is he pardons a bunch of these former Confederates.
Did he pardon Jefferson Davis?
Jefferson Davis remained unpardoned.
Okay.
But they never put him on trial.
Okay.
Because they did not want to give him
a
platform in which he would argue that he had defended the Constitution better than the rest of you knuckleheads. Absolutely. And that's just the facts of the matter there. So Andrew Johnson went out of his way to pardon a bunch of key Confederates. And once pardoned, these guys end up trying to have a role in the Reconstruction of the state governments, which means that some of them go back to Congress. So they end up having a role in the federal government to uphold the Constitution that they just tried to undo, except they said that they were trying to keep it. And it gets complicated. But that whole Civil War thing is so misunderstood from the political dimensions. We get so wrapped up in drums and flags and bugles and stuff that we forget that there was a Constitution at the heart of all this.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. This power of pardon is a pretty amazing power when you think about it.
Well, and it goes back to sovereigns.
Yeah.
I mean, the king
exactly.
could pardon you.
Yeah, the king can pardon you.
St. Paul appeals to Rome because he's a citizen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not new. It's weird, because we have the system of justice.
Because
and
we have
then
a
the
Mr. President, not King President.
Yeah, and presidents can use it for political purposes.
Sure.
And presidents can do it to right historic wrongs. And presidents can do it because they've been urged by a celebrity. I mean, Kim Kardashian. Who would have thought we'd be discussing
Little
Kim
X's
Kardashian?
over my eyes now.
Who would have thought? But she has used her celebrity power to get the president to use his pardon and reprieve power to get people out of prison who've been convicted but are serving long sentences for relatively minor crimes. And apparently the last count was that she and her organization have been involved in getting early releases for 17 people.
Wow.
I mean, who would have thought that could happen? Now there's ways to do the pardon thing. President Obama set up a pretty rigorous process. He was building on what previous presidents had done, which is, you go through a review by the Department of Justice, and they look at the facts of your case, and they make a recommendation. On the basis of that recommendation, then the president makes his decision whether to pardon you or not. And often they occur around Christmas time, as sort of like, again, going back to the sovereign, here's my gifts to the peasants.
Well, and they pardon the turkey at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so not that we want to compare those in any sort of way.
But this is all.
But traditionally, there's been this idea that around Christmas, the holiday season, would be a good time to pardon people.
Sure.
President Trump is choosing to pardon whenever he wants to.
Whenever that bubble rolls across his
whenever
brain,
whenever it fits. And so he's doing it. And again, he has his power per the Constitution. And it just can make things go away. Often they're people who've already committed their crimes and served their time, and they're out. And so it just.
But their record, the crime is expunged.
It's expunged. It's pretty amazing. And then, of course, my favorite is Bill Clinton. On the last night of his presidency, he stayed up, I believe, the whole night, but I'm not positive, at least most of the night, signing pardons for friends, contributors.
Friends of friends.
Various people who you go, why did he pardon that?
Well, didn't Gerald Ford throw some pardons out there for connected to Watergate?
Okay, that's the big one. Well, there's a whole. I mean, you just look at there's very controversial pardons. Probably the most famous pardon was Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon.
Yeah, and
he pardoned him for crimes he may have committed. Richard Nixon was not charged with a single crime. So, by the way,
he did get a get out of jail free card.
He got a get out of jail free card. And by the way, this is an important point. The power is so amazing that you don't even have to be charged with a crime. Okay?
You can be pre-pardoned.
You can be pre-pardoned or pre-crimed or something like that.
Uncrimed.
Uncrimed, just by the power of the president's pen. And so Richard Nixon was pardoned for crimes he may have committed. Did or may have. I mean, it's just amazing. And then, of course, George Bush, the first George Bush, H.W. Bush, he pardoned people who were involved in the Iran-Contra scandal.
Yes. Wasn't Oliver North in that mix?
And he did it, and some question, was he trying to save his own skin by doing so?
Because they had stuff on him.
He was the vice president when it occurred, and he was
intelligence
well-connected.
Background.
Yeah, he was a former CIA director. He was well-connected in the White House. So, and then he went ahead and pardoned people. So did he do it to hide stuff? And, you historians will be debating that for a long time. So watch out for this power. I think it's a pretty cool power. I get a kick anytime the president does it, even if I don't agree with what the president might do. It's still, there he goes.
There he goes. And why, what's the backstory on this?
Right.
So this is a 3-part clause, this clause 1.
Right, that we just completed.
Yes.
And it's the presidential powers. It's commander-in-chief, administrative powers, and clemency powers. And there's more powers still to talk about, but they're not part of that first clause.
All right, so that was our lines.
That's it.
And we'll have another line next time. Thanks.